Hey everyone, and welcome back to Paddle Forward. Today we have a packed agenda where we'll be talking about the latest developments from Paddle and then our newest product releases. You'll hear from some of our customers, as well as a great Q&A at the end with all of you. If you want to interact with us during this live stream, you'll notice the two boxes down below. One for chatting with us alongside the stream, and the other for asking questions, which we'll get to at the Q&A in the end. I wanted to get started today talking about payment acceptance optimization. In November's Paddle Forward, we learned about the need to have a revenue delivery strategy which considers how we think about the tools, processes, and people strategically to support future growth. Part of this strategy involves assuring that we grow efficiently. Getting prospects to our website, getting them interested in our products, and then getting them to give us their contact information and credit card details is all well and good. But if that payment then fails, we still don't get paid and our customers don't get access to our software. Similarly, having a customer success team that's keeping customers happy so that they want to continue to subscribe is of little use if those renewal payments fail. In November, we talked about the importance of NRR growth. Declined transactions are the enemy of NRR growth. And we'll never get to this new standard of 109% NRR unless we do something about these failed payments. So let's have a look at payment acceptance and what declined transactions do to your business and the work that we've been doing behind the scenes at Paddle to combat them. As SaaS companies, we all experience failed payments as a result of attempted sales. Failed payments mean that as SaaS companies, we don't get paid and our customers don't get access to the software that they've bought. Sometimes there are sensible reasons for transactions being declined. For example, if a credit card has been stolen or there are no funds available in the account. However, sometimes it's not obvious why a transaction has been declined. The card is actually being used by the owner, and there are enough funds in the account to cover the transaction. The issue which results in transactions being declined occurs somewhere in what we call the billing chain. When a payment is made, either through a checkout or as part of a renewal of a subscription payment, the payment passes between different issuing and acquiring banks. Often across geographic borders involving different currencies, they pass through fraud checks requiring authentication, and a whole bunch of other potential hurdles. At each of these stages, the transaction could be declined for a variety of different reasons. This could be as simple as one bank not having a good trust relationship with another. So through no fault of your own as a SaaS business or your customer, the transaction could be declined. A recent study that we read by ClearSale indicates that 62% of those selling online are seeing an increase in their false declines. And this number could well be very much higher, as many companies aren't even aware of their false decline rates. For e-commerce as a whole, this equates to lost revenue of an estimated $443 billion due to false declines in 2021. And that's 70 times more than the losses due to fraud, which is an often more focused on number. This problem doesn't just affect your new customers, but will also be affecting your annual and monthly recurring subscriptions. Customer renewals will fail, and the subscriptions could be cancelled even though the customer wants to continue using your product. A lost customer means SaaS businesses lose out on the entire LTV of the customer, which has a significant impact as it hurts our NRR. And as we learned during the last Paddle Forward in November, this is a critical measure that you need to focus on growing. So if you notice that you're seeing a noticeable number of declines or failed payments, what do you actually do? You could consider changing a payment provider with the aim of reducing the number of failed payments that you see in certain circumstances, such as certain combinations of country and payment network, etc. But you'd still have all of your eggs in one basket. So while you might see an improvement in some areas, you almost certainly will see a decline in others. Not just that, but things change over time. The most appropriate payment provider for today may not be the most appropriate for tomorrow. That billing chain might change, resulting in the routes between banks changing, resulting in an increase in declines. Not only that, but you're growing as a business. The pattern of your sales might change. Different customers using different payment methods from different countries, for example, could all have a negative impact on payment acceptance of any given provider. What would happen if your single payment provider experiences issues, like a spike in declines? You have no way of completing a transaction as you're still relying solely on them. So what choice do you have? You stay with your current payment provider where you're seeing an increase in declines, or you move to a different payment provider, which may make the situation better in the short term, but may not in the long term. You won't be able to guarantee that the change will be effective. With a single payment provider, your success is 100% reliant on them for everything. If they experience problems, there's nothing you can do, and it's a real issue. Rather than relying on a single provider, you could work with multiple providers and work out which providers are most likely to succeed given a particular situation. If you could keep track of the best payment provider based on the customer's country, the type of card they're using, and many other variables and parameters, you could theoretically route the payments through the best channel to increase the likelihood of them being successful. So let's have a look at what this would actually entail. Building this solution is really quite a challenging alternative. To route payments internationally and stand the best chance of boosting payment acceptance, you need to integrate multiple providers and set up merchant accounts around the world. Often, this means establishing new business entities in those countries, even hiring people on the ground to facilitate it. It means researching which providers and acquirers to go with, going through underwriting and assessment processes, having your business evaluated for suitability, and negotiating contracts. And of course, even if you find the best option, the price may be prohibitive if you lack sufficient scale. So once you've got all of that infrastructure in place, you're all set, right? No, not really at all. Researching the most appropriate providers and putting them in place is only the beginning. For each transaction, how exactly are you going to determine which route is going to have the best chance of success? To do this, you need a statistically significant number of transactions, which are distributed across all of those different parameters, such as country, type of card, provider, and many, many other things as well. Even if you have all of this information, you'll probably end up needing a dedicated team of analysts to analyze all of that traffic and build the algorithms to route transactions optimally. This is a really big task. And to give you an idea just of how big a task this is, for context, Netflix currently have 36 employees in their payments team. These are specialists from around the world to deal with the global nature of their payment strategy. Collectively, they're needed to deal with managing global and regional payment schemes and acquirer relationships, launching new payment methods, and defining their approach to subscription billing. Spotify similarly have a team of 16 people doing a very similar job, managing external providers and partners and global teams responding to external payment trends and regulations. So maintaining and optimizing your revenue delivery infrastructure alone takes significant manpower. Not only that, but it defocuses you and your team away from what they're actually good at, which is delivering new software and product features to customers. So staying with your existing provider is the easy option, but it results in lower revenue due to the increase in failed payments. Changing providers regularly is not really a practical option, as you need to be constantly monitoring this situation and have no real visibility into which alternative providers could solve these problems. As we've just discussed, implementing multiple providers is the solution to ensure good payment acceptance, but it's incredibly resource intensive, and the number of transactions required to make good decisions is extremely high. So is there another way? Can you get the benefit of using multiple providers without the pain? Today, as part of our revenue delivery platform that we introduced during Paddle Forward in November, we're excited to be announcing Paddle Pilot. Paddle Pilot is a purpose-built solution that intelligently routes payments depending on a range of different factors. Not only that, but if the initial payment attempts fail, say because there are technical issues with the first, then it cascades the payment to an alternative acquiring bank, which increases the likelihood of the payment going through.
Every SaaS business is losing revenue due to failed payments. But why is this happening? When an online payment is attempted, it triggers a request from the seller's acquiring bank to the customer's bank to release the funds. The acquirer routes it through connected payment networks. Most software sellers set up a single acquirer to handle this for them and trust it to work. But along the journey, a number of things can cause a legitimate payment to fail, like overly sensitive fraud checks or a technical hiccup. That's where Paddle Pilot comes in. With Pilot, payments aren't limited by the routes they can take. If a request is blocked, we reroute it between multiple acquirers to try again. This results in fewer payment failures and more conversions and renewals, which means more revenue for you.
Our goal in building this was to make recurring payment failures easy and giving you the access to the best payment routing in the world with zero additional work required. No actions are required on your end to enable this. We'll do it all for you in the background. And right now, I'd like to hand over to Mike, who will run us through the mechanics of Paddle Pilot and will share with us some of the metrics and performance we've been seeing so far.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike. I'm the head of product at Paddle. I've also been heading up our payments team on the product side. So the payments team and I have been really busy working on Paddle Pilot for the last 6 months or so. I'm really excited to be able to share it with you all today. So let's explain what Paddle Pilot does in order to help our payments be as successful as possible as often as possible. So given the myriad of problems in the payment chain that can cause a failure, as Christian mentioned, the best option is to have multiple routes available. The key part of Pilot is this. It utilizes our relationships with all of our acquiring banks around the world, which have been established by our dedicated finance team who helps set this up and maintain it over time as part of our managed payments solution. It doesn't matter what type of payment we're taking, whether it's a checkout transaction or a recurring subscription or a payment retry as part of a dunning process. Pilot routes every payment to the acquiring bank, which is best for that payment, and it has a best track record for completing similar payments. Now, Pilot chooses from multiple acquirers based on analysis from our millions of our transactions across more than 2,000 of our sellers. Our scale of data means that we can run experiments to find patterns to make the best routing decision as the primary path to collect the payment. Now, one of the ways we do this is by profiling the millions of transactions that we take, looking over 350,000 combinations of payment variables, understanding which acquirers are successful with which types of payment. These include things like amounts, the buyer's location, the type of card they're using, etc. There's loads of these, and we'll be adding more and more of them over time. We can then determine which of the multiple acquirers will be best to use in order to increase the chances of the payment being successful. Armed with this knowledge, when a new transaction comes in, we're able to route to the best acquiring bank, which is most likely to succeed. We also optimize some of the metadata we send on that route, things like merchant category code, which can be a major factor in judging whether it's a successful payment or not. The banks use these kind of things in order to analyze their fraud rates. Our dedicated team of payments engineers, product managers, data analysts, then consistently experiment with these data sets. We're always looking at this data when we're trying to make sure we have the biggest impact on payments and maximizing revenue that we take. So another benefit of Paddle's scale is our really high transaction volume and low chargeback rate, achieved by the combination of this managed payments product, as well as our proactive finance and risk teams, helps Paddle ensure really high trust scores with the banks that we use along the payment chain. This results in more payments succeeding because they trust us. With a constantly evolving engine of more acquirers and more routes established all the time, Paddle Pilot optimizes the vast transaction volumes passed into managed payments and delivers a really high payment acceptance for all the software sellers using Paddle. As we learned earlier, having a single payment provider means that your success is limited to their success. If a customer's payment for either a checkout or a renewal fails for whatever reason, then you don't get paid and your customer won't get access to your software. If this reason isn't related to concrete factors like insufficient funds, then the failure could be something to do with the banking network being used. If this is the case, then there might be something we can do to still take a payment. This is where the cascading comes in. Besides initially choosing the best route to make the payment most likely to succeed, if that doesn't work, then we can actually try to resubmit the payment via a different route without affecting the customer's experience. Because Pilot has a multi-acquirer structure, optimized by millions of transactions over time, this is something we can do to drive more payment success and return you more revenue. Let's take a look at when we can cascade a payment. When a payment fails for a generic reason, which could be that it was falsely detected as fraud or the communication between banks is broken down, then we retry it using the next best acquirer. Having multiple options increases the chance of success, as we're not relying on a single acquirer to take the payment. In the event that a payment is unsuccessful, Paddle Pilot will instantly cascade your payment to the next best choice in order to really maximize the likelihood of finding a successful route and capturing that revenue. This means you have a relentless dynamic system which utilizes our international multi-acquirer solution to maximize the chance of collecting your revenue. As a result, in our early tests, we've been able to reclaim 9.4% of the payments that we cascade to a different provider after the initial failure. Clearly, this means that we generate more revenue because we have managed to increase the overall payment acceptance and therefore the number of successful transactions. But what does this mean for our customers? Well, our early tests have shown that we've been able to boost successful payments for some of our sellers by up to 4%. One seller in particular, Resume.io, saw a $47,000 uplift in January. All of this has been achieved with no additional work on the part of the seller. It's due to the work that Paddle has done and the optimizations we continue to perform in the background on an ongoing basis. And we're just getting started. This is our first iteration of Paddle Pilot. There are many more to come this year. We're planning more acquirers, more routes, more combinations in order to further boost our sellers' payment acceptance. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A box below. We'll answer them in the last session of the event. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Mike. That was super interesting. Now I wanted you to hear from one of our customers who's been using Paddle Pilot in the wild. So here's over to Resume.io.
Hi, my name is Menno. I'm the founder and the CEO of Resume.io. We're an online resume builder, cover letter builder, and job tracker, where we help job applicants find and land their new dream job. We've been doing this for almost 6 years now and are active in 180 countries. And last year we migrated to Paddle because we needed to fix our global VAT obligations, and they've been a great help in doing that and fixing that. But there's more than that in payments. About a month ago, Paddle informed us about a new feature they're launching. It's Cascading Payments. With Cascading Payments, they have the ability to route payments over multiple acquirers, which essentially means if the payment fails on acquirer 1, they can do a retry on the monthly payment on acquirer 2, and this way recover the monthly payment for us, which is really important. And this way our LTV increases and our run rate and all our metrics improve dramatically. And yeah, to give you a sense of how big this is, for us, they recovered 47K only in January. So yeah, multiply that by -12 and improvements on the model, and yeah, the payoff is huge for us. So yeah, we're really happy with this feature.
We know when running a SaaS business, providing a seamless experience between your product and how your customer pays for your product is really, really critical. So now I wanted to hand over to Quenisha, who's going to be talking about our new branded inline checkout and how we're addressing that.
Hey guys, my name is Quenisha Anderson. I am the product manager for the checkout area. I'm today going to talk to you guys about branded inline checkout. This was one of our most exciting releases of last year, and we released it to a huge reception. And today I'm going to talk to you about why it was so huge and the things that we learned. And in the end, I'm going to tell you that we want to hear from you. So let's jump in, shall we? So branded inline checkout, the most important thing, I guess, to start with is that we have an overlay checkout and we also have an inline checkout. In this case, branded inline checkout works specifically for inline checkout. It does not control our overlay checkout. And with our branded inline checkout, you have some 50-odd controls that allow you to be able to ensure that the end-to-end checkout flow for your buyers is seamless. That exactly how your homepage or any page on your website in terms of the button width or the radius or the color or hovers or active state, any of those things that act and operate one way on your website will act and operate exactly the same way when you get through the final steps of your checkout flow. Now, this wasn't always the case, but of course, we listened to you guys and we are continuing to listen to you guys. So how does this work? Who can use this? Why would I use this? Who's using this? What are you guys changing? These are all the things that we're going to kind of talk about a little bit today. But the most important thing I have to ask of you is that you talk to us, because this is an evolving product. We need to hear from you, know what you're wanting from this. We have some assumptions. I'll tell you about some things that we learned, some assumptions that were confirmed. And but there's also some things maybe that we're not considering, and we want to hear from you on those things. So we have a Q&A box, we have an ideas box. We'd love for you to contribute to both of those things, and just bring us into your world. Let us know any kind of challenges that maybe you're having using this, or challenges that you are wanting us to solve with this. So yes, let's get into what is branded inline checkout and who would use it. Branded inline checkout allows you to let's say customize, to style your checkout, everything from your inputs to your links to placeholder text. There's like I said previously, there's about 50 some odd controls that you can customize. And what makes this really cool is that there's probably things in your business that you have no control over if you're the designer, right? You design something and then you give it to probably your engineers, and then they take it from there. In this case, as the designer, you don't need your engineers anymore. You can go into our user interface, into the dashboard, and you can have your design here and then make your checkout look exactly like that. Okay. So yes, your engineers can also use this, but designers, the heads of the company, anyone, the accountant, you can go in and you can style your checkout however you please. You can also preview it here. So on the screen that you see on the left-hand side, there are an array of different control options. In this case, we're looking specifically at the primary button. The primary button in this case is the Pay Now button. There's also the secondary button, which is the Change Payment Method button. So while you can't control the text, because why? We are here to ensure that your checkout continues to convert, and in this case, convert even better. So there are things that we've already tested and we're highly confident in that we don't give you the control over, because we need to ensure that your conversion rate is only impacted in the positive, not in the negative. So we're styling, but we're not completely customizing, right? So in this case, we're saying, well, we want to give you the ability to control your hover state, any kind of border radius, border color. You can control the font size. And now, as of, I believe last month, you can even control the system fonts. So there's a lot that you can do here. And if you were to log into your dashboard under checkout and branded inline checkout, you will be able to see exactly the various controls that we give over to you. Now, why do you need this, right? We have overlay checkout, we have inline checkout. What I've been able to see is that there are a lot of you who use our overlay checkout who are playing around with our inline checkout now, because you can customize it. So plenty of you have customized, styled inline checkouts, but you've not yet implemented inline checkout. And if that's you, we want to hear from you. Is there a reason why you haven't made the change? Are you just curious about what you can do? Do you not know exactly how to embed the inline checkout? If that's the case, please, again, in the Q&A, drop some questions, because we're happy to help you get over that hurdle. So let's talk about why you need it. One example is Render Forest. So Render Forest, prior to our branded inline checkout, we're using our overlay. And again, it's an incredible product. You want to be able to, within 10 minutes, have your checkout up and running. Overlay is absolutely for you. But there are some of our sellers who want complete control of their checkout. Okay, so that means you're probably on the side of wanting to utilize our inline checkout. Overlay, again, is out of the box, works. It brings in the title of your product, the taxes, the total. Here are your payment options. It converts incredibly well. Like it's an incredible product. But say you want an incredible product that you also can control a bit more. Well, that's where the inline checkout comes into play. So you can see previously, this is what Render Forest checkout looked like. However, if you look really closely in the background, you can see that they don't have orange really anywhere in their color scheme. So can we help bring their branding fully through their checkout? That's one of the main questions that we had to ask ourselves when we were planning our branded inline checkout. How do we make this as seamless as possible? How do we ensure that no one comes to this checkout and is wondering, is this the same company that I started with a few clicks ago? That they are just not only that, but they also are further able to be informed about what they're purchasing, what any kind of policy, payment types, any of those things. That brings you over into the overlay checkbox. Why? Because this gives you an entirely different look and feel of your checkout, because you now control where the price appears, how the price appears. If there's any information that you want to be able to inform your buyers with, in this case, Render4 says, hey, here are your various payment options, right? They also allow for them to add additional addresses and things like that. All of that sits with Render in the Render4 side of things. And then they plug into our checkout. So as you can see, this continuation of their checkout flow, which is pretty different from the previous one, is now you can see the plan name, the purchase item, and we're still not to the point of even collecting the payment information. What Render4 is doing is they're collecting all this information, and then they're going to pass that information to us. They're able to put little icons in here that further integrates their branding into their checkout flow. And boom, you can see it's quite a difference. Quite a difference. How much of a difference? Well, Render4, after moving to our branded inline checkout, saw an uptick of 5% in their conversion rate. When you have a higher conversion rate, that means you have more money in your pocket, right? And that's ultimately the goal, is that we ensure that our checkout has extremely high acceptance rates, extremely high conversion rates. And the question we said is, how do we bring that branding all the way through to help ensure that we increase conversion rates higher? Well, we help you ensure that your checkout looks the same end to end and that you have control over it. And that is what Render4 has been able to benefit from here with this changes. So let's get into the nitty gritty. What can you change? So I'm going to go over very few things here, but if you really want to get into all of the possibilities, you have two options. You can go into our user docs and you can see for yourself. Or if you're really courageous, you can just jump off the deep end, because whether you use overlay or inline, every single one of our sellers has access to go right now and play with this on their own. So you can go log into your dashboard under checkout, branded inline checkout, and you can start to make adjustments, preview those adjustments, publish those adjustments. Now, you only want to publish these adjustments for your actual inline checkout if that's what you want. Because once you publish that, that is what your buyers are going to see if you're using our inline checkout. If you're using our overlay checkout and you publish these, they're there for when you're ready to use our inline checkout, but they will not control your overlay checkout. Okay, so in this case, let's talk about buttons. Buttons are our most customized item in the dashboard. That's reassuring to us. That's one of the assumptions that we had assumed. And it's not, again, down to what the title of it says. It's down to the width of the button, the radius of the button. Is there a border? What's the width of the border? What's the color of the border? What's the hover state? These are all the kinds of things that you can manage with your buttons, but it doesn't stop there. It goes to your inputs. So your placeholder text, check boxes, there's quite a lot of control. So again, you have two options. You can go check out our user docs where we have diagrams similar to this that walk you through what you can change, or you can go directly and play with it yourself. Or actually you have three options. You can do both. And one of the cool things is that we've learned so much since launching this, right? Part of that is down to you guys giving us pretty immediate feedback. And whether that's through you contacting account managers or seller support, or just your sheer use of the product, that's probably been the biggest thing that we've been able to learn from. And as I said earlier, we need to continue to learn from you guys. So in the Q&A box, in the idea box, just let us know what you're thinking, what you're wanting. So I'm going to talk to you about the things that we've learned since launching this. Like I said, we had a huge interest. What we thought we would see in terms of activity on this is multiples more than what we initially assumed. And that is because we were thinking about this for inline users. we hadn't considered how many overlay users would start to really, really take an interest in Inline. And that's not, I mean, obviously that's the goal of a product like this, right? Is to help enrich your experience and also to help convert your buyers. So what we're seeing in the platform is that a lot of our overlay users are styling a checkout. Obviously, you guys don't have the inline checkout. You're not utilizing it, so you're not going to see this in your actual checkout. Your buyers are not going to see this in the checkout. But if you are on the fence about this, like truly, I mean this, reach out to us so we can talk to you about, is this the best thing for you? Or maybe it's something entirely different. Maybe what you're telling us is that you want to be able to style your overlay checkout. And I can tell you it's a thing that we are thinking through and considering. So help us get some clarity on that assumption. Is it that you want to style your overlay checkout or that you're interested in our inline checkout? Let us know. Again, like we got a lot of these defaults, right? There are plenty of these things that you guys are not customizing, but we leave it there because obviously as we grow as a platform, that could change for various people. There are many things that you are, like I said, buttons, inputs. Some of you want padding on your checkout. Some of you don't want padding on your checkout. Labels. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, right? And that's the wonderful thing about this is that, yes, you can test these things. You can say, okay, for 3 months, 6 months, this is what we're going to have our checkout look like. And then we're going to change a few minor tweaks. Now, here's the thing that we've been hearing from you. Because you want to expedite this testing and learning, you don't want to just have one checkout that is out there in the wild. You want to be able to see various checkouts, right? Maybe it's at the product level or maybe it's at the brand level. Okay, talk to us. Let us know what you're wanting out of this. The other thing is that many of you want to control this at the code level. And I'm just here to confirm that has always been our original thinking, is how do we give them control at the code level? Obviously, not everyone has the same capacity, right? So we need to start with the UI and then transition over to giving you guys control at the code level. But again, if we were to do this at the code level, what are you wanting to control? Are there things that we don't currently give you guys the ability to control that you want to? Let us know. Now, some of you are hearing about this for the first time and you're like, well, I can't let you know anything because I didn't even know this thing existed. Well, that's okay. You can always feed back to us later. We always want to hear from you what your experiences are with our products. So please go check out the docs, go to your dashboard, try this out, whether you have overlay, whether you have inline, and then let us know what your thoughts are. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys about this today. I hope you'll take some time and dig into it and feed back to us because we always want to hear from you. So enjoy branded inline checkout. We're really proud to have brought it to you. See you guys.
Thanks, Cornelia. Some really cool stuff in there. But now what I wanted to do is to hand over to somebody who's actually been using branded inline checkout in the wild. So here it is, over to Adam at Tailwind.
Tailwind Labs is a business that me and my business partner, Steve Shoger, started a couple of years ago that kind of came out of an open source web development tool that we had kind of been working on for the last several years. We built a CSS framework, not unlike something like Bootstrap, for example, for people that are sort of technical enough to be familiar with these sorts of things. So that kind of grew in popularity, and eventually we decided to release some commercial stuff around it, which is our main product, which is Tailwind UI, which is a set of kind of HTML templates using this CSS framework that we sell access to online. So people, they pay for access and they essentially get like a membership to like a big custom web portal where they can sort of browse around all these sort of premium templates and pull them into their web projects to help them build their websites faster. We could have just gone with like Paddle's pop-up checkout that kind of is super easy to just throw in there with like a couple lines of JavaScript, but we really wanted to build something that felt like very kind of like on brand and like cohesive with the rest of the site. So we ended up using the inline checkout, which does a lot less for you, because if it did more for you, then you wouldn't have the ability to do like all the customizing. it let us sort of like build our own sort of area that's showing like the total and subtotal and tax and style it kind of however we want and put it wherever we want on the screen instead of worrying about like being kind of constrained in how that stuff shows. So we have like basically a full screen checkout now where like all the checkout forms are on the left, and it's like a big kind of like subtotal area on the right that's all using our custom colors and all that stuff, and we have full control over that. That was more work to get set up for sure, but ultimately we were able to do it with all the kind of functionality and APIs sort of exposed by Paddle, and now we have like a really strong custom checkout that really doesn't feel like you're being like taken off the site at all.
Now, I just wanted to say that we hear you. We noticed from the last live stream the sheer number of comments and questions that we got about testing with Paddle. And we listened. And I'm really happy to introduce Marcus, who's going to be talking about our brand new Sandbox environment.
Hi everyone, my name is Marcus Hayward and I'm Head of Engineering here at Paddle. Coming from an engineering background, I know how important it is to test new integrations in a pre-production environment so you can integrate with new services and have confidence that when you're ready to push to production, everything will work as expected. And today I'm very excited to announce that we're releasing our Sandbox environment in order to enable this. At Paddle, we pride ourselves on solving for customers. We actively seek feedback and look to improve wherever we can. During our Paddle Forward event in November and on Twitter, you told us there was a common issue that we didn't have a solution for until now. We listened to your feedback and I'm pleased to say that we're launching our Sandbox test environment for Paddle. So let's take a look at the idea of a sandbox and specifically what that means for you as a seller using Paddle. For those of you who may not be familiar with the concept of a sandbox, in terms of computing and specifically software, a sandbox is a system that mirrors a production environment and allows users to test different configurations without interfering with production. As part of your revenue delivery strategy, you need a flexible revenue delivery platform that allows you to make changes to support different business requirements, such as different types of payment logic, different transactions, subscription types, and different checkout look and feels. If you want to introduce something new, such as a billing model, upgrade path, user portal, coupon code, or checkout design, ideally you don't want to just push it to production environment without testing it first. Doing so could result in it breaking your live environment, which could result in a bad customer experience, or worse, a broken website resulting in customers not being able to make payments. So who's it for? Our first audience is engineering teams. The Sandbox environment allows engineering teams to experiment with a sandbox in a safe environment to understand how it works and to assess the features and capabilities. Typically, we see engineering teams implement and simulate customer billing flows before they push updated production settings live to ensure nothing is broken. This is especially useful if there are integrations between webhooks, APIs, and middleware on their side to handle data, access and licenses, and billing models such as upsells. Because of all of these tests being carried out in a sandbox environment, the production environment isn't affected in any way and the transaction data isn't polluted. There's no need for testers to test with real payments and then request refunds. It is all done on a simulated environment, which means the tests behave as they would in production, but without the headaches of real transactions going through. Our next audience is product teams who want to be able to play with Paddle and test out features before committing to moving volume over to us. They will get the value of being able to test changes to pricing models, products, checkout design, and such in Sandbox while protecting the customer experience on production. Our other audience is revenue officers who want to be able to have a Sandbox environment to test transactions without polluting real data. Similar to product, they have the ability to test new pricing models, billing models, checkout designs, and customer experiences before rolling them out. We've made 2 additions to the Sandbox environment. You'll see a test label at the top left-hand side of the dashboard and also a link below that to our documentation on how to use the Sandbox. Other than that, it's identical to our production environment, so you can test all features with confidence that you'll get the same results on production. Our checkout is also the same and includes a test mode label alongside a link to testing instructions with how to simulate different scenarios on the checkout. So what can I test? Whether you're new to Paddle or an existing seller looking to introduce a billing model, upgrade path, user portal, or coupon code, or checkout design, you can now set up and test your integration without publishing live changes to your site. The Sandbox account allows you to easily collaborate with team members to amend your revenue delivery setup over time and test new features, including payment logic, where you can trigger successful or failed payments to see how your system responds without affecting live customer experience. Transaction types, where you can use fake card numbers to simulate different types of transactions, for example, transactions with 3D Secure. Subscription flows, where you can quickly simulate monthly or annual subscription plans in minutes. And checkout styling, where you can choose from dozens of different styling options with branded inline checkout and test how they look in a safe knowledge that your customers won't see any changes until you're happy. So how do you access this? If you're new to Paddle, you'll be able to test the dashboard straight away. Once you get verified by our team, you'll be able to log into your main production account. And for existing sellers, you just need to sign up and create a Sandbox login. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you're as excited to test out our new Sandbox environment as we are to roll it out. If you have any questions, please drop them in the box below.
As we're going to be running these Paddle Forward events every quarter, we wanted to carve out some time in them so that you could hear from our customers as well. So with that, I wanted to introduce my co-founder Harrison, who's going to be talking to one of our customers, Moritz at Theme Punch.
Hey everyone, today we're speaking to Moritz, founder of Theme Punch. Moritz, it's so great to be speaking with you, and thanks for joining us for Paddle Forward. I'm super excited for you to share your story today, as well as more on your experience working with Paddle. But I'd love to start by giving our listeners some background on who Theme Punch are and what it is that you guys sell.
Thank you very much, Harrison. It's an honor to be able to speak to everyone. So like you said, I'm one of the 3 founders of Theme Punch. And we kind of started off in 2012 with our first WordPress plugin called Style Revolution. In the beginning, it was more of a simple slideshow tool, but over the years, with increasing popularity, it kind of turned into this full-blown visual content editor. So we think that first impressions really count when visiting a new website. And this really ties into our mission here at Theme Punch. With Slide Revolution, we want to help the average users really deliver this wow factor, this emotional attachment you get when you go to a new website, you see a cool slogan and some amazing animated graphics. And exactly with Slide Revolution, you have the option to create these cool eye catchers like sliders with special effects, 3D transitions or particle effects, hero headers with video backgrounds. And all of this without coding knowledge. So our users, they can just go about using one of our over 200 templates, edit it in our visual editor, and just deploy it on their website within 5 minutes.
It's cool. I'm sure it's been an incredible journey. I've had a look at some of the products and they're super impressive. And obviously you're now working with Paddle, but for the benefit of some of the folks listening in today, it'll be really great to hear more about how you were selling your product, at what point you considered working with Paddle. Just some of that background would be really helpful if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, sure. So we have been with an online marketplace called Envato for the majority of our career, basically for over 8 years now. And we kind of felt like it's time to up the game and move into a new direction. So with Envato, we only had the option to have one license model, which is lifetime licenses. And we were quite unsure, like, should we go with a subscription-only model now? Should we offer subscriptions and lifetime models? How should we structure the pricing? And then again, we thought that maybe moving to our own shop, it could kind of result in an accounting nightmare. Our accountant kind of got us a little bit scared there because you have to take care of all the VAT transactions. There's potential credit card fraud, refunds. But yeah, so we needed to find someone who could take care of all these points for us and give us a little bit guidance on how to move forward.
Oh, that's amazing. And I can imagine, having worked with Envato for kind of 8 years and having a lot of that stuff handled for you, it was quite an intimidating move to selling direct for the first time. And
definitely.
And one of the things that I guess we think about to try and support with that perhaps you could talk about is the work of our revenue delivery advisors, who kind of help you get set up and onboarded with Paddle, but also try and offer you some best practice advice when navigating some of these new challenges and selling direct. Would you mind sharing kind of your experience during the onboarding and with your revenue delivery advisor, Moritz?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So our revenue delivery advisor was Paula, and we had a really good connection with her right off the bat. Dirk, the other founder, and I think in the first session we talked already for 2 hours. And being really direct, we got into the nitty-gritty right away and bombarded her with questions. And she was really knowledgeable and took her time to kind of take the fear away a little bit, especially with the accounting nightmare problem. She said, yeah, Paddle is taking care of most of this. The whole VAT, the credit card chargebacks or whatever can happen. And yeah, she had a bunch of great ideas that she brought into the equation. Like one example was that she suggested to show prices in local currencies, which is easily possible with the Paddle API. And this is kind of important because in some countries, it's not really feasible to pay everything in US dollars. And it's also much more user-friendly to always see the amount in your actual currency that you're going to pay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was just one example. There's a bunch of smaller things. She actually helped us with the pricing structure as well. So we were not sure how the subscription should be priced. So she kind of gave us hints on that, and this was enough for us to move forward with confidence.
That's amazing. Well, where did you end up in terms of how you decided to price for the products?
So yeah, we kind of went with the strategy to offer more options because we saw a bunch of our competitors, they went with only 3 options, which could be viable to not cause overwhelm with the user. But we thought now that we are standing on our own feet together with Paddle, that we can just do some testing and just offer a bunch of different models. So basically now we have 3 main tiers. That's like 1 license, 3 license, and X licenses. And you can have both either as a subscription or as a lifetime license. And the more licenses you take, you will immediately see the amount saved, which is kind of like an added psychological benefit, which was also an idea of Paula, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's great. And credit to Paula for some of these great suggestions. And I'm sure the revenue delivery advisors out there are doing the same. I think there's a bunch of key takeaways here, though, right? That perhaps some other folks could apply to their own businesses. So thinking about, yeah, displaying that discount to the user as they increase the number of seats or licenses they're purchasing sounds effective. And your point about ensuring that a localized price is shown on the pricing page, we've also seen in our data super effective too. So I'm really glad that you guys implemented that. When a user sees a price and a currency on a landing page and that price changes or that currency changes when they open the checkout, it's at that point they're often seeing the biggest drop in conversion. So it's great to hear you guys have implemented that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And go on, you go.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it's visible that these rewards paid off because we got some really good unexpected results with that. Because our marketing agency kind of prepared us for a big drop in sales initially when moving from
expectations very highly.
Yeah. So we kind of wanted to start very low with the expectations to not be disappointed in the end. And they said like, yeah, maybe a 50% drop in the beginning, and then over time, as your new website will grow in SEO status, then your sales will pick up. But from day one, we had a 20% increase in sales already compared to the Envato marketplace, which was just mind-blowing for us. And it just shows that people immediately put trust into our new website and the shop system with Paddle, where you guys are basically giving us your edge and your knowledge in structuring this checkout process, which has a very high likelihood of conversion and making a sale.
No, it's brilliant, and it's so great to hear that revenue story that I'm sure is going to be super inspirational for a bunch of people listening. So thanks for sharing that. And obviously, a key part of this move over to selling directly with Paddle was your ability to experiment with some of these pricing models, to be able to move to subscriptions for the first time. Can you perhaps talk to me about the popularity of that subscription plan you rolled out? Was that a success? Share some details there.
Yeah, sure. So we kind of, two key takeaways from our time at Envato were that on the one hand, we had a lot of people who thought that our license was too expensive, so they didn't buy it all. On the other hand, though, a lot of people, they purchased more than one license, about 50% of our users. So we kind of wanted to bridge this gap and offer the best of both worlds. So this cheaper subscription license is more like the entry level option for single designers and developers. And the power users, like the agencies, they have the option to buy in bulk subscriptions or lifetime licenses, whatever they want, and kind of save on that in the long run as returning customers. So the subscription license definitely is the most successful one. I think we have about 70% in subscriptions right now. And so our shop relaunched started last year in September. So we're really excited for this year in September to find out how many people will renew. Right now we have a quite low churn rate, so the drop off in subscriptions on a monthly level is really surprisingly low. Yeah, and we'll just see what happens. We have a few things planned to try to improve that.
And I'd love to talk about some of those in just a moment,
sure.
Because I know renewals are a big topic of the Paddle Forward event this time around, and I'd love to talk about some of the work you're doing there. But just beforehand, again, to think about some of those key takeaways for some of the folks listening in. I think it's great to hear that the subscription plans have been a huge success for you guys. And hopefully that inspires some others who are thinking about that move as well. And I think a real trick that you guys have implemented alongside Paula was ensuring that you can get those entry level customers in who just want to pay for that the annual subscription on the 1C all the way through up to the agency. I think that's really smart. And one little trick that I saw you guys do that I'd love for you to chat about, if you don't mind, is when I was having a play with your pricing page, and I looked at that highest tier of yours and knocked up the number of licenses I wanted to, I can't remember, perhaps well over 100. I saw you flip the buy now button to a contact us, so that you could potentially sell to that customer one-to-one and some of those higher value contracts. Talk to me about some of the thinking there.
Yeah, the idea was to offer a lot of flexibility and a lot of options right off the bat. But we also kind of want to stay open for these larger partnerships that could end up maybe in white labeling solutions or like kind of completely new things that we didn't really account for right now. So if you are really interested in buying licenses in bulk over 100, you can just get in touch with us and we can work out a custom quote for you. And I mean, obviously, the one license subscription is the most popular right now, and from there it kind of like tickles down. So like the 5 license model, the 10 license model, they get less and less popular. But I mean, you never know. We're just at the beginning of our journey, in my mind. So we got to be prepared for every eventuality.
And it's great because we talk a lot with folks about how we can form them a revenue delivery strategy. And it feels like with your revenue delivery advisor, we're really going through some of those steps. So we've taken you to selling direct for the first time and taken on a lot of that burden for you guys. We're now thinking about how you can monetize those users as effectively as possible with these highly flexible plans, if you like. But now we're also opening up other markets and other eventualities for you guys as well. It's like allowing you to service some of those large customers with a high value contract for the first time, whilst also giving you the flexibility to service some of these individual designers. It's super exciting.
It is.
You mentioned renewals, the thing on the horizon though. Talk to me about some of your thoughts or your expectations around how that's going to go.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things in mind here. First of all, one idea that our revenue delivery advisor Paula had was to offer upgrades. So if a user already purchased one license subscription, let's say, and instead of purchasing another single license, he could just upgrade this one subscription to a higher tier, let's say 3 licenses, and benefit from the discount with his upgrade instead of just paying the full price again for single licenses. So we are looking to implement that. And then yeah, there's a lot of other things that we have in the pipeline that we didn't kind of fully flesh out yet.
It's exciting. It's a really great way to tackle this retention challenge, I guess, or opportunity head on, because it's interesting that you're not only thinking about how you can retain as many customers as possible, but how you can actually expand the MRR of those existing accounts. Can we get these folks to upgrade or buy more seats? And this is really smart, because when you're thinking about the success of you and your business, you're going to look at net revenue retention or NRR, and obviously a contributing factor to that is not only how many customers am I retaining, but how is their revenue with me growing over time as well. So it's amazing to hear that you've got an approach there, and I'm hoping that some of the exciting stuff we announced earlier today, like Paddle Pilot, will really help you guys. And for those listening, this is our ability to route transactions to payment providers we think are most likely to accept a payment, to keep that revenue retention as high as possible. That's brilliant. Thanks for sharing a bunch of that, Moritz. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners with regards to working with Paddle, or any other key takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, our journey with Paddle has just been beyond our expectations, I gotta say. And we're always looking forward to the regular reports and the regular calls with Paula, because she always has amazing ideas and is very critical about what we're implementing as well. It's like if we add something that might just be not so well thought out, she will just tell us, and we will have a discussion about it. So that's really appreciated. Just in general, if anyone's interested in Slider Revolution, you can just check out our website, sliderrevolution.com. If you have any feedback or if you want to get in touch, if you're interested in partnerships or cross promotion, just drop us a line. We're always happy to hear from you.
Wow, thanks so much. I'm hoping you get a lot of inbound interest and some folks looking to partner. We're so proud to be working with Theme Punch. It's amazing to hear that your story's been a positive one. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully some successful years ahead as we start to explore some of these new opportunities for growth.
Thank you very much, Harrison. It has been a pleasure to talk to you. Great opportunity.
Thanks, Moritz.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for Paddle Forward. I hope you enjoyed the content thus far. Harrison and I are now there's been a ton of activity and questions throughout the stream. So Harrison and I are gonna try and address as many of those as we possibly can over the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. And we'll do kind of a roundup at the end as well. While we're doing this as well, we're gonna be running some polls and things down below the video. So just down below the stream in the chat, you can see a tab called polls. We're going to have one live there right now just to kind of get some feedback on what you're most excited about from this Paddle Forward, and we'll have one towards the end as well. But I wanted to kind of kick off with, there have been a ton of questions around kind of additional payment methods, crypto payments, sort of many, many different things like that. And I just wanted to start there. So payments in general is really core to what we do. And you'll see with Pilot today, we're making big investments in sort of general recurring billing and payments. One of the things that's really, that we're really focusing on over the next kind of couple of quarters here at Paddle is really the kind of the number and the breadth of payment methods that we support. So we'll be launching more payment methods over the next kind of 3 months or so, and it'll be like a continuous investment for us over the next year as well. So, I mean, kind of stay tuned for, we're not going to announce just now exactly which payment methods and which order we're going to release, but please be aware it is on our radar. We are planning on launching more of those this year. When it comes to crypto payments, sort of I, like everyone else in the world, has been following kind of the crypto boom over the last sort of 6 weeks or so. And it's super exciting. Sort of, we don't have immediate plans on the roadmap to support crypto payments. There are some challenges around crypto and subscriptions, just with like being able to accept those payments on a recurring basis. It is something that we're looking into and trying to find some solutions for. We were really interested in that a few months ago, PayPal announced that they were going to be supporting cryptocurrency payments through PayPal. So that's another thing that we will be supporting as soon as that's available as well. So your customers will be able to pay with crypto through Paddle. It just may be through something like PayPal. But we'll continue to kind of look into that and kind of update you as we do more work on crypto there. I'm going to jump into a few of the other questions. I'll hand some of them over to Harrison as well. So one of them is, when will two-factor authentication be added to accounts so that things like a stolen password won't result in stolen funds? So do you want to take that one, Harrison?
Yeah, absolutely. So two-factor authentication is something we're definitely going to do. We take the security of our sellers super seriously. And this is something that you can expect from us in the near future that we'll update you on as soon as things are ready. We do have a number of other checks and balances in place to ensure that we're paying out the correct and accurate individuals too. I'm more than happy to share some details with you there directly if you get in touch. But expect more from us soon on two-factor auth.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we're making a huge investment in this year is security and compliance for our customers as we get bigger and as they get bigger as well. Yeah. So you'll see more certifications as well as additional features around things like 2FA and kind of breach protection and things like that. One of the other things that we've had, I'm just reading out some of the ideas in the Q&A here, is much expanded support team and kind of faster replies to support emails and things like that. Do you want to touch on that as well, Harrison?
Yeah, sure. We're investing incredibly heavily in the support team to ensure we deliver the best possible experience we can across all of our sellers all over the world. We're considering opening up even more hubs, getting better and better at global coverage and time zone support. So to expect us to continue to improve there over the months ahead. The best way to get in touch with a rep right now is contacting us via the dashboard or via sellers at Paddle. For those of you who have a revenue delivery advisor, you can chat to them too. Do keep contacting us in those ways, and we're responding to you as soon as we possibly can, and keep the suggestions and feedback coming.
Yeah, it's a big investment for us in support and trying to get to that kind of holy grail 24/7, which we're not at yet, but we do aim to get to at some point in the future. Lots and lots of comments sort of about Sandbox. I think that's probably the most anticipated sort of release that we've ever done. There were lots of suggestions for Sandbox with lots of votes in the run up to that part of the presentation as well. So we obviously released Sandbox today. It's available now for you to go and sign up, and there's some documentation on sort of the website about how you test different payments through Sandbox, kind of different test payment information, as well as kind of how to test things like PayPal, which require an extra account with a PayPal test environment as well. Some comments about sort of how Sandbox interacts with sort of the production environment and things like that. So the way that works today is there's two completely separate environments. So there's no crossover between how payments and customer information and things like that go through production versus Sandbox. And that also means that things like configuration, webhook URLs, product information, and pricing are also sort of not synced between those two environments. And we really wanted to get to a point where we had some sort of test environment that was better than you using 100% off coupons and things like that on the production environment. So we wanted to get this out to you and in all of your hands as quickly as we possibly could. It's definitely on our roadmap with Sandbox to kind of add a little bit more functionality there of how you move between kind of Sandbox and production environments, how you replicate a production environment in Sandbox and make sure kind of all of the settings and things are the same as well. So that's one of the things that we're going to be focusing on as we start to build out more functionality around Sandbox and around testing. We also have like our webhook simulator in the production and Sandbox environments as well, so you can simulate any of those events or notifications that are coming through. And the other thing that we want to do is sort of really kind of work on kind of more depth to our documentation as well. So all of this stuff, all of these possible scenarios, and as you start to get into complex subscription billing, there are hundreds of possible different scenarios from a customer perspective when it comes to like billing scenarios and things like that. And we want to make sure those are all documented and really easy to use. There's a couple of questions in here about localization for emails and invoices and things like that. So the checkout as it stands right now is localized in, I think, 17 different languages, and it gets kind of auto-detected based on browser location when a person visits the checkout, which is really great. And we see a pretty substantial bump in conversion when that's used, same as we see with kind of local currency payments and things like that as well. But one of the areas where we haven't localized sort of significantly thus far is all of the notifications and emails that get sent from Paddle to customers. And that's definitely something that's on our radar and something that we want to kind of have more granular localization around things like receipt emails, failed payment notifications, and things like that. But also at some point give a little bit more customizability to those. Like I think you've seen the theme that we have around kind of more work that we're doing on brandability and customizability of Paddle, and we want to extend that to different areas of the product's experience too. I'm just looking through all of the questions that are coming in. There's a fire hose of them a minute. Sort of a couple of questions about affiliates and the Paddle affiliate product that we have today, which we disabled for new customers probably like 6 to 9 months ago now. I don't know if you want to touch on this, Harrison, or I can.
Excuse me. I mean, we still support the ability to work with third-party affiliate platforms and have a great partnership with a number that we can recommend there. And I'm sure we can support you in looking at some of those. I don't know if there's anything specific you wanted to add from a product perspective.
Yeah. So I think the existing affiliate program for people who have access to it today will still be maintained, and sort of it still works and is still functional. We actually do have a section in our documentation now which describes how you can integrate with, I think, 3 or 4 different third-party affiliate platforms as well to kind of provide an affiliate program or a referral program sort of that's integrated with Paddle. So I think somebody can probably pop into the chat like a link to that documentation and some of those guides if that's something that you're looking at implementing. So there's a handful of questions about more payment methods, naturally. Things like SEPA direct debit and others. These are absolutely 100% on our roadmap and on our radar. It's not a question of if we will implement a lot of these payments, it's just a question of when. We have a roadmap for how we're thinking about kind of payment method integrations. Our goal is sort of within some period of time to have many, many more payment implementations than we do right now, all without you having to do any additional work to an integration on your end. So please sort of be patient with us. We will get to them. And absolutely, we're in the same boat as you as wanting these payment implementations as well. There's a handful of kind of questions and ideas and things that are coming through that are very specific to individual accounts as well. So we're not going to address those on the stream, but either within your Paddle dashboard, there's a live chat in the corner, or you can email sellers@paddle.com. And our support team will more than happy to kind of work through any of those account-specific issues that anyone has as well. There's some questions about kind of subscription billing, usage-based billing, and kind of more advanced subscriptions. That's definitely something we're working on. I don't know if you want to add to that, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, we support a lot of these billing models today, albeit that there's different ways in which we can make that easier for our sellers that we're considering and looking to get a lot of feedback on. The documentation on subscriptions is pretty thorough, and hopefully there's some examples in there as how you can achieve some of the results that you guys are looking for. But again, thinking about how we can make that user experience and developer experience, frankly, better and better is something we're looking at over time. So welcome any feedback there for sure, particularly on those really complex billing models that we're starting to see more and more of, particularly for those who are selling B2B.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the areas of like big investment for us this year is more advanced billing options and also kind of more advanced billing models. So the support for usage-based billing and making that as easy as possible to implement. And hopefully we will be able to work with some of the awesome third-party integrations that have integrated with Paddle over the last sort of few months Like we've seen Laravel Spark today, which launched.
Yeah.
Big congratulations to the team there on building an integration with Paddle. It makes it super easy for people to implement a billing model in their brand new SaaS application or existing SaaS application with Paddle. We'll work to get kind of all of those improvements kind of hopefully available in those third-party integrations as well. Just going through the continuous fire hose of questions. I don't know if you have anything to add right now, Harrison.
There was a good question on what converts better, things like the inline checkout that you heard a lot about today, particularly that kind of branding, we're calling it the branded inline checkout, or the overlay checkout, which tends to be the easier of the two to adopt and get you up and running faster. Now, it's probably not a question that can be answered in aggregate, and for different types of buyer, there might be a preference to one type of checkout or another. So again, there's not really a 100% answer to that question. I think start to think about what experience would your buyers expect. And again, you can reach out to the team for some advice here. We've seen some of the great results of the branded inline checkout today that you heard about from the likes of Tailwind. But the overlay checkout may well be better for the type of customer who's purchasing your product. So again, reach out to the team and they can probably offer you some great advice there.
Yeah. There's also a bunch of really good questions, sort of, or comments and ideas and suggestions about kind of the dashboard and running your business on Paddle and things like that. Definitely an area that we want to invest a ton in, both from a reporting perspective to give you guys access to even more kind of reports and metrics. There's a handful of questions about things like checkout funnel analysis and conversion rates and things like that. Absolutely something that we're going to add to the dashboard at some point in the coming months. Same thing with things like search and ability to search things like notes, kind of descriptions of coupons, like all of that stuff. Like absolutely, when Harris and I started, we were the first kind of users of Paddle. Like we were the first customers. We built it for ourselves. So we absolutely empathize with all of these kind of like small frustrations that might get in the way of using the product day to day. And certainly this year, we definitely want to make kind of huge progress on a load of those things as well.
There's a great question here from Martin Christian, speaking of the early days and kind of getting started. He asked about whether you can use Paddle without an incorporated business, and had an idea around how we could offer a kind of business entity hosted by Paddle. Fortunately, things are a little bit simpler. Again, it's really our mission here to be the revenue delivery platform through which all software companies run and grow. And we want to work with as many of you as we possibly can. And you can use Paddle today without an incorporated business. So please do sign up, provide all the details around what it is you're selling and point to the URLs in which you're going to be doing that from. And there's no reason you couldn't get up and running with Paddle. So please do sign up, Martin, but your point's a great one for any others listening in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have time for a couple more questions, so I'm just going to go through some of these top voted ones in the popular section of the Q&A now. So first one we have is, what about branding on emails sent by Paddle? So I have no idea if a legion of support people is about to kill me, but this is a feature that we have today. You can upload a logo to Paddle and have us use that on kind of most of the emails that are sent out as well, things like invoices, receipts, and so on. Kind of, you may have to kind of contact us in the chat in your account in order to add one of those logos, but it's a one-time thing that then appears on those emails. There are a handful of emails that we've introduced in the last year that don't have kind of custom branding right now. And definitely, as with things like localization of those emails, which is something that we really do want to work on, things like adding a logo to them will be something that we'll roll out over the next sort of few months, hopefully this year as well. I'm just going to go through. We've answered the questions about Sandbox. This is a really good one. Any plans to change the way payment methods work across multiple subscriptions for one single user, having a payment method for all subscriptions? So this is one of the things that absolutely that we really do want to work on as a part of the subscription billing improvements and adding kind of more complex billing model support and things like that over this year. So some of those things are like multiple line items on subscriptions we would love to support. So multiple plans on a single subscription, which kind of addresses that as well. There was another question or an idea here about sort of providing a like saving payment information on the checkout. So if somebody then goes to purchase either another product from a paddle seller or from you again, sort of that information is remembered. And I think things like that across some of our subscription implementations is definitely something that we want to implement. The ability to store kind of a payment or a subscription payment method alongside a customer or a user or a business instead of the individual subscription or plan. So that's definitely something that we want to work on to give them more flexibility there as well. Lots of questions as well about our invoicing product, kind of which we also, we've actually just built, we're just building out a team to kind of really double down on our work on invoicing over the next few months as well. So this is our product which enables you to kind of issue manual invoices for products, both within the Paddle dashboard, but then also via our API or with an integration that you can kind of create with something like Salesforce. And that's something that we are sort of absolutely investing a ton in. And there's been a couple of questions around that. So one is the ability to kind of, I think, remove users for within that section and delete kind of customer information, and generally more sort of ability to manage kind of different contracts and customers within that. That's absolutely something that's on the radar for that product, and something that we want to improve kind of ideally very, very quickly if we can. And then the other kind of key thing there was that I saw as a question around the integration between invoicing and subscriptions. So the ability for invoicing to be on a recurring basis, to be kind of more like kind of a integration with sort of the underlying subscription billing product. I think transparently, the way that we're thinking about invoicing and the investments and things that we want to be able to sort of make in that invoicing area over the next few months and over time. One, addressing a lot of these kind of low-level frustrations that you have, like with invoicing around kind of customer management, issuing and reissuing invoices, canceling invoices that have been sent, and things like that. Because we understand that in a lot of those instances, you have a direct relationship with the customer. So you need sort of more kind of granularity of control about exactly how that stuff works. So all of those things that you can think of, user editing, kind of resending, removing, resending invoices, reminders, payment reminders, and things like that are all things that we're thinking about. And then the second thing is sort of treating ability to treat invoicing a little bit more like just like any other payment method as well for a subscription. So being able to use all of the functionality of the subscriptions product over time, like recurring billing and recurring invoices and multi-line items and things like that. And then just use invoicing and manual invoicing as a sort of payment method for that. So that's one of the things that we really want to work on this year as well, and kind of really level up sort of that invoicing product for kind of those larger deals, those bigger customers, and things like that that you want to sell to as well. I think we've addressed most of the questions here. That are kind of, there's a lot of duplicates, and there are a lot of ones that are very specific to individual accounts. So I encourage anybody who's asking individual account specific questions to kind of contact us and our support team as well. I don't know if, do you have anything to add, Harrison, or any other questions that you've spotted throughout this that you think would be good for us to address?
I don't think so. I think we've tried our best to cover the fire hose of questions as you've suggested, but more than happy to answer any if you guys reach out just after the event. I know that we've got a final poll going around how you found the event today, and perhaps have the chance to offer some qualitative feedback there as well. We'd really appreciate you guys filling one of those out so we can keep getting better and better at this. But thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah, these Paddle Forward events are a little bit new for us. We love doing them. We're going to try and do them every 3 months. And we would love to kind of have more kind of audience participation in those. We'll continue streaming them on YouTube. So please do subscribe to us on YouTube if you're not already. And feel free to reach out to us after the event with any questions, either through that email address on Twitter as PaddleHQ, or feel free to kind of reach out to Harrison or I directly if you have any questions or concerns about everything. There are some links and things going into the chat right now, with links to landing pages and blog posts about everything that we've talked about today, links to documentation for things like Sandbox, which we talked about as well. So from me, thank you very much for joining us. We'll aim to make the next one even better as well. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.